Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. Hello, hello. Welcome back, welcome back. So, just as a brief summary, I am Valgan. I do VRChat World Development and VRChat World Prefab Development. For last week, we were working on this new combat system that I've been working on. Just kind of a largely a projectile-based one, but I would like to add in things in the future that could be like hand weapons or likes. But for now, we're just starting out with getting players, well, be frankly just shot by a gun, all things considered. Now last week there was actually quite a bit that we got done on this. We have a player over here, so this is a player object, so one of these gets spawned for every player. These over here, however, were done after the stream, and I really felt like working on this on Sunday. But these are little, basically NPCs. They're realistically nothing more than a health container. But these NPCs just have like Armory NPC as a class they have. As you see, there's nothing in this class, but it is now inheriting from Armory Entity. Excuse me. And Armory Entity is just our generic, this is a thing that can be shot and has health system. So the player now is also inheriting from a Armory Entity, but with a few extensions to its capabilities. So for example, on post-late update, it tracks the player, and I've added in some features here for grabbing the current player. So if you want to get the Armory player that's associated with player number 32 or something, you can call the static function on armory player.getPlayer and pass in their player ID. Or if you want to get the one that's referenced for the player, you can do armoryplayer.getLocal. Now, unfortunately, while we can use static methods, we cannot use static variables. So as such, these can't really be cached in a static variant. So anytime that something gets, like, does get local here, we want to do that once. And then we just take that and use that wherever it is that we need it. So this one is only affecting the health here, but if we go back here, where else are we calling this? Entity info menu. All right. So yeah, we're just using it during the init function and not using it anywhere else. Because this lookup here, I would like there to be a proper dictionary eventually for this, but by then we'll have to be faking some singletons and stuff, and that's a for another day thing, but we have a lot of other things that we're going to get through just today as well. So before the stream, I was actually changing a bit of how these health bars work. So visually right now there's some slight differences, so there's this green bar and stuff, but what it does is this has a target entity, and that entity can be a player entity or an NPC one. And it also has a reference to the health bar, which is the actual bar here. The health bar is the entity stat bar, which we'll just move this around. Yeah, there we go. So this doesn't have a stat associated with it, but this bar can be this can be slid left and right depending on the value of a stat. And a stat, like the player's health, for example, is a value that is between a min and a max. So we always know what a slider is meant to get from that value. Now, by default, this doesn't have a stat associated with it, but this menu canvas here knows what entity it's going to, and it knows that this is a health bar, because that's just what the variable is. So during the initialization, it binds this health bar with the health associated with the target entity, which is just, I have a protected entity stat here that if we're binding one and one already exists, unbind from the previous one and then bind to the new one. And only do this if it's real, because otherwise we can just, like, I don't know, we can pass in null in order to clear this out, and that will definitely help out with stuff like that. I should probably do a check here, actually. If stat equals stat return. That way, this bind stat basically just doesn't do anything if this is already the stat that's being used. Richard looks good so far. Thank you. Also, welcome. There's a lot of things that I'll admit I got bored and started working on over the weekend, but for the most part, I think I've covered a lot of it. Yeah, armory player has these static methods. Armory gun. One of the things that I want to change is how the builder works for these things. So the builder window, I've actually gone and had to fix quite a few things. We'll just close a bunch of things. Alright, let's find the one that we're actually doing. We're looking for scripts. Should be scripts editor? Weapons? Oh yeah, it's under weapons. Sure. Can't wait to try the combat system when it comes out. Any ETA? So I would like there to be a testable version by the end of this week. The scope for these kind of projects that I've been working on is I work on one of them per week. So we've worked on the NPC system 2 weeks and 3 weeks ago, and we've worked on this system last week and now this week. I don't know if I'll swap that to being 1 week we'll work on it for because I have 2 streams per week. So on Tuesday, Thursday, I could work on the armory system, and then next week I swap to the character one, the NPC system. And I'm not entirely sure how to handle the pacing for that. Cat, welcome, welcome. Yeah, I would like this to be up and testable for patrons here. Probably by the end of the week, I want to have something that people can hop in on and just play around with. But there's quite a few things that need to be done for that first. You were trying to put an emoji. Oh, I see. Oh, let's see what we expect. It is definitely up and coming, but there's a lot of things that need to be done before that. And that entirely depends on, honestly, how much time I spend talking during these streams. So we'll have to see how that goes. Oh, one thing I didn't mention before. I have a gradient now for these stat bars. So when this runs, this is just the default values. It'll grab a float, that's the percentage, which is what we were doing before for the fill amount. But we're also setting the color based on the gradient value that's in this percentage. So if we get down to like 5 HP or something, it'll be red because that's where it is in the lookup gradient. So actually, let's take a look at that right now. If I hit play, I didn't want to keep booting this into VRChat in order to test everything with multiplayer, which is the reason why I put together these NPCs pretty quickly. So if I just kind of do that, you'll see that their health gets turned to yellow at that state, and then I can put it a bit further, and then they're red down there. And these ones go at different rates, so this auto fires and stuff like that. And this one does a lot of health. And this button over here just resets all their health. It's pretty simple for testing things. But it means that I don't need to constantly launch VRChat over and over again, which I like. Alright. Let's see here. The things that need to happen for this to be testable by the end of the week are A, we need improvements to the gun builder. So this needs to have your max ammo count and other things like that. So we have here, we need damage, max distance, max ammo, and reload duration. Those are the 4 values that we need to add into the system here. One of the improvements to the gun build, yes. The other thing, which is probably going to be the bigger one, is what a player role is. So each of these NPCs or even players will get assigned a role, and this is functionally how I see the game systems for this thing being handled, and that results in a lot of work. But basically, a role will define what happens when a player is spawned into the game, what happens when they lose health, and whether or not they can interact with certain items. Imagine like, for example, you're like playing TTT and only the traders can click certain buttons and open a door. That is the kind of thing that I want to have set up for that. But I also want to, well, frankly, the first thing that this thing is going to do is, when you die, respawn the player. And while I could set that up pretty easily, just built in directly into the armory player, I want that to be part of the entity roles system. And that's going to be the big one. But let's get ahead and let's go ahead and get started with the gun builder window. So we're going to swap over to where we got here. So weapons, gun builder window. All right. So the way this has been working is during create GUI, we synthesize all of the UI in that position right then and there. And that works fine, but it ends up being a little bit annoying at scale, and you don't get as much easy customization with it. So we're actually going to swap to UI Builder for it. UI Builder is very nice. I've used it in a lot of projects, and I've even had streams with big sections dedicated to it. And we're going to be using this to, frankly, do everything. All right. So I think we can just start with a label up top. Label text will be gun builder. Go down to text and just have that be bold. There we go. We'll make this visually fancy later. All right, I need to save this. You won't see the pop-up window, but I'm just going to save this into VRC Armory. I'll make a new folder, resources, because we're going to load it from Unity's resource system. And just call this gun builder window UXML. So let's first get parity with the window that we have here. So we have a object field for the selected object, a toggle for whether or not it is an automatic rifle, a layer dropdown for what layers you want to use, and a button to create the thing. So let's go ahead. We will need a where would that be? That would be inspectors. Yeah, inspector object field. It might even be easiest just to do property fields for a lot of these, because I don't think we need to customize too much of their functionality, especially because it's some layer stuff for that. Okay, so the way that I handle an editor window like this, I only ever want one of these things open at any time. So when we do show window, we do get window, so it doesn't create a new one. What this allows us to do is use a system in Unity called a scriptable singleton, which is a singleton version of a scriptable object, which largely just means it's a really easy way to store data for the editor stuff. This isn't available in, well, it's not available in VRChat, but it's also not available at runtime in Unity. It's just an editor tool. But it allows us to store a bunch of information and have it be used for this editor window like it's a properly serialized object. So this is a layer mask that by default has layers 0, 11, and 26, which kind of look like magic numbers, but if we look at the layers here, 0 is default, 11 is environment, and 26 is the one we're using for Armory player. I'm going to actually comment that now, so I have any idea why I picked these in the future. And Armory player. Well, actually, I should probably rename that since it's a Armory entity now. So let's just go to this. Fortunately, renaming a layer won't cause any problems. And that's only true because I have not engaged with this layer name-wise. So like you can do like name to layer as a feature for Unity's layer system, but I haven't yet, so I don't have to fix that. Armory entity. All right, so now that we have this, let's just go ahead and swap this object field out for our property fields. Property fields are basically just like your object field or likes, but it changes the field depending on the variable type. So I don't need to put in an object field, then a toggle, then a text field. These three things just get generated depending on the type of variable that you attach it to. So I will put in 3 of these, have this one be called, let's see, selected field, and auto field, and layers field. Alright, so now let's go over to here. So instead of doing this whole system here, we're going to swap this out for another method. So I'll make a visual tree asset, which is a UXML file, and just call this UXML equals resources, resources dot load, and we'll do type of visual tree asset, and it will be gun builder window UXML. So we do have to put in the exact file name for that here, which is a little annoying, and you're going to have a lot of that in a UI builder and like UI elements in general. But it is, I will say, tolerable. So now, instead of doing a lot of this, now we're still going to have a few things here, but we're going to go ahead and do UXML dot clone tree and pass in root visual element. Now, if I change nothing and we swap back to Unity here, this should go ahead and change our window here. Yeah, all right. So you see we have our gun builder label up here and everything else is pushed to the bottom. This is because I put everything in a default visual element that auto expands. I'll go ahead and disable that right now. So disable the auto expanding, that is. And let's go ahead and not go through and grab all this stuff in that way. We're doing, so that's a button for clicked. These are binding properties. All right, so we don't have any like funky on value changed or anything, so we can just use property fields. So we can go ahead and get rid of those, honestly. And we'll do, nah, we won't get rid of them. We'll have it be property field. Let's swap that out for all of them. And I'm actually going to rename these to not follow my normal conventions, because I find the ability to copy paste these names for the object searches to be worth the trade-off in breaking a naming convention one time. Alright, so instead of looking for object field, we do property field. Now, right now this is doing new, so instead of doing that, we're going to do root visual element dot q. That'll be property field. Name of selected. Alright, so this might actually be faster if I just go ahead and swap this out. Instead of new property field, just do that. Now, our create button, we don't want to do this down here. Mostly because we haven't actually built the create button, I'm now remembering. So let's get rid of those things so we don't need it anymore. And we'll just comment out that button and swap back to Unity. Alright, you'll see our gun builder is completely empty now, and that's because we have not set up enough stuff for it. So, yeah, let's just start by giving us that button so we know it works. Create, just call this create button. To button create button. And this won't be a property field, this will be a button. We change the name. We don't need to add it. The visual element, we don't need to add this since they're already in there. We just need to directly bind into their values. Now, it does seem like our fields here aren't expanding outwards. Let's figure out what's going on. So we'll open up the live debugger up here. Pick element, property field. All right, so these aren't generating a property below them. Oh, right, because this is never found. Okay, so selected isn't a real thing. We can just do name of selected field. Okay, there we go. That's what I was missing. All right, then fill that in there, that in there, and that in there. This is what happens when you refactor and copy paste a bunch of stuff. Things are just wrong sometimes. All right, so our selected field is showing up correctly, but now we need to figure out why our other things aren't. Now I'm just going to go ahead and right click this tab and enable live reload. So whenever I save and make a change in here, so I can set grow to, no I cannot. I can set height in size, there we go. You see, it updates there correctly, mostly correctly. But let's go ahead, close this, open a new one up, see if it changes anything. Which is not, but we are getting a null reference, which is on auto toggle. Oh, okay. Because this isn't named auto toggle, this is named auto field. So now, wave hands around magically. There we go. All right, they're all showing up now. Nice. We have our gun builder label. We have our 3 fields, and we have our create button. Bring that back down to 40, I think is good. Let's make this label something a bit nicer. We'll do a size of 16, center it, make it a little bit taller, like 36. All right. Let's give it a background color. What's good these days? There we go. Let's do maybe a. Yeah, there we go. One of the nice things about UI Builder is we can actually go up to here and change what theme we currently are on. So I can swap to light mode, and this shows you what this styling will look like when you're in light mode. So it's a little dark at the moment, so I'll thin this out a bit and increase saturation. So if I swap back to active, it still looks good. All right. Now, we have successfully rebuilt everything that we already had. However, for the light mode, I take it? Yeah. All right. However, we can now go around and use this a bit more easily now. So let's go ahead, look at our marksman rifle, and determine what values we need to add to this. We need, let's see, selected object, that's the thing we put everything on. Let's actually have a label that separates those. So this will be settings. We'll center that. Control save. Let's give this a where is it? Margin. There we go. Let's give it upper margin of 18. Does that look good? Yeah, there we go. And we'll bold this label as well. Alright, so now we need to add in all of our other settings. So we need damage, we need max damage, we need max ammo, and we need reload duration. These will all be property fields, like all the others. Alright, so this will be damage field. This will be max distance. This will be max ammo field. Oops, max distance field. Then max ammo needs to actually be spelled with 2 M's. And then reload duration field. And that all gets put above the create button. Alright. Now, in order to bind those values to anything, we need to actually have them up here. So, we'll remember damage, max distance, max ammo, reload duration. Alright, so do float? Are those floats or those ints? What are these? We'll just do float. Damage 20. I should actually look at what the defaults are for these guns. So yeah, damage is 20. Max distance defaults to 200. Max ammo. Oh my god, I can't spell ammo. Defaults to 10. And reload duration defaults to 1. Originally, when you mentioned the gun system, I thought you meant like an Avro system. That's well. Yeah, no. This is for Worlds. I am not as familiar with things on VRChat avatars mechanically. I can make my own. I can set up all the things that I need to, but in terms of fancy, complicated systems like that, yeah, it's a little beyond me, unfortunately. Alright, duplicate the bottom one. Just got to copy that. Clean this up here. Delete that, delete that, delete that. Alright. So now we can just do this copy and replace, which is exactly why I have these naming conventions like this. So I can just easily go through and paste over multiple things like that. Alright, so now we come down here. Okay, so question. How bad is ping and latency for something like this in VRChat? So that depends a lot on, realistically, how many people are going to be in the scene. So the way that this system works is... Hold on, the sound kind of sucks. Let's see where we're at. Let's see. There we go. So the way that this system specifically works is I am going to be using send custom network event. That is because I can pass parameters along with it. So that's part of VRChat's much newer system. And while I haven't stress tested it, the send custom network event feature now runs very quickly. Apparently so quickly that it can sometimes arrive before manual sync does. Now, that being said, a person's internet is always going to be the final say in how good the system is. What a lot of games are doing, especially now in more modern systems, is favor the shooter. So that means the person who is actively clicking on another player is the one that they just kind of assume like, yeah, okay, they got it. So if someone has bad internet, runs behind cover, but someone with good internet just doesn't see them run behind cover yet because that hasn't been broadcast out and successfully clicks on them, tough luck, I guess. It's unfortunate that there's ways to like come up with a system for that to really nail it down as like top perfect. This is the best way to handle this. But I do not have a master's degree in that, unfortunately. And sometimes it really feels like you need one to figure it out. Alright. We don't actually need to be storing these anymore, but I guess there's no downside to doing it. So, swap these out. Thank you. Yeah, no worries. Bonk, 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 bonk. Alright, so there's do damage here. Dum, dum, dum. Max distance. Max ammo. And reload duration. Alright, so now if we head back into Unity, we should suddenly, there we go, we have a bunch more extra fields here. Cool. And we can change these. I can set this to be 50, and if I close this window and reopen it, bring it back up, yep, this value is still 50. Alright. Did it change your variable for the last one? Change your variable for the last one. What do you mean on that one? Yeah. Okay. So now that we have this, we need to actually pump these new values into the gun that we are producing. So our prop reload duration. Okay, but what do you mean? Like, did it change your variable for the last one? Prop reload duration is grabbing this value here, and reload duration field instance prop reload duration. Yeah, this should all be right. Yeah, I guess I don't know what you're saying. Sorry. But I previously made these setter functions for these values up here. I think it's going to be better if I just have a full method for doing this instead of that. So we're just pumping all of the values that we need. Isn't it prop reload field? What? No, prop just means it's a serialized property. Field at the end means that it's a field that is in the UI. That's the naming scheme that I use for it. All right, so down here, we're just going to call script.populate values. And that isn't an actual thing yet. So we're going to go ahead and let's put that under a init. Public void populate values. So that's going to need, we'll do a transform for wire point. I guess an int for layers. I guess we can do a layer mask. Yeah. I'll need a float for damage. A float for max distance. And an int. Okay, an int for max ammo. That makes sense. All right. That should in fact be an integer. Yeah, because you can't have like half a bullet. It'd be interesting, but I don't know how you'd handle it. Maybe if the weapon was like a water gun, where it was like a fluid to value or something like that. But I think it'd probably still handle it in the background as like individual values, integers. But it could work easily for a float. I won't worry about that right now. So max distance and then max ammo. I keep spelling ammo with one M. And then float reload duration. So now what we can do is we can go ahead, copy those, put stuff in here, do equals fire point, equals layers, equals damage, equals max distance, equals max ammo, and then equals reload duration. So once we have that, we can go down here, do populate values. We'll start out with yeah, so the first one in here is going to be our fire point. There we go. Fire point. Have the layers from that. We'll do damage from that. Should copy that pretty easily. So that'll be damage, max distance, do max ammo, and reload duration. Okay, so that fills all those values there. We don't need this up here. Okay, nice, nice. All right, head back to you, me. Actually, now that I think about it, so we have a fix the formatting. Yeah. We have a few things up here that do we want? Okay, distance should never be negative. So let's fix some of this up here. Max ammo should be a min of 0. Max distance, min of 0. Reload duration, min of 0. I guess if you want a heal gun, you could have a negative damage. Yeah, I guess, yeah, that's reasonable. Okay. So yeah, that'll keep you from accidentally setting a negative distance for how far your gun can shoot. And, like, I don't even know how that would happen or what that would mean. So we'll just lock all those to a minimum of 0. All right, so let's try this out on this guy here. Let's go ahead. Okay, so right now I have max ammo of 10, damage of 15. So let's go ahead and revert this so it has none of our customization. Drag it in here. We'll set it to be automatic. We'll set damage to 15. Max ammo. Let's also set that to 15 and hit create. Alright, so that adds in all the things here. That has all of these settings properly added on. The only thing we have to adjust is that this system automatically instantiates a point in which a bullet is fired from. And we just need to line this up visually with the tip of the gun. So just line up there. And you can see that by the red line that we get here from the gizmo preview. So if I look at armory gun here, we're using on draw gizmos selected, and this does a gizmos.draw line from the point of the fire point position and just 1 meter forward from that transform. So if for some reason you wanted a gun that shot straight up, then it can do that as well. I'm sure someone somewhere will have a use for that. I do not. But yeah, it's fine. It's fine. All right. One of the other big issues that I'm going to run into with this project is sourcing audio. So there's probably good libraries that you can come across, and I will gladly take recommendations for gun sounds for video games as a open source library if anyone's come across one. But for right now, for testing purposes, I have a bunch of audio from Undertale instead. So these are just sound files that were on my computer. If you didn't hear any of those, let me know. I'll have to adjust some audio for things. But yeah, this is what we're gonna be starting with. You can hear? Awesome. All right. So guns are one of those things that you probably want an audio pool for, because there's going to be a lot of sound effects. But for now, I'm just going to set it up as just having something that works, because I want to integrate it in the future with Contact, and Contact still needs a bit of work. I tried updating it to use the send custom network event with the parameters, but I was running into a lot of issues of some of these events getting delayed and stuff like that. It was just a bit of a mess. Funniest temp sounds to use in a combat system is just your voice making pew pew noises. I have definitely had projects in the past in which I have just made random sounds with my mouth, and the problem is, depending on who the project is for, they might not replace them. I have definitely had professional projects that I've done in the past where I kind of thought they'd come up with a replacement, and they just didn't. So I'm a bit more hopeful on having something blatantly incorrect, or having something that works out of the box. Because, for example, my footstep system that's integrated with Contact, most people who use that don't replace the audio clips. And all of those sounds are just things that I hit a shoe against on my desk. And while it works fine, I certainly hear me hitting a shoe against something on my desk every time I go into one of those worlds. Alright. 45 minutes in, I am going to sit down. Remember to drink some water, get your limbs stretched a bit, and then settle back in for some progress. Alright, so for right now, we are also going to need to add in the sound effects that the system will use. So we'll need to instantiate a audio source for now. Again, in the future, there'll be audio pooling systems for this, but we're going to have to instantiate an audio source and have audio clips added in for this. We realistically need two things. Pirate for your translation one. Yeah. Temp sound and replace me. I've tried that. It drives me insane. Maybe I should just get used to it. But yeah, the pirate one is a good example of one that's just going to get replaced, because nobody wants to support the language pirate in their world functionally. Like, it'd be funny, but nobody does it. So it's an easy one to just convince people to replace. Alright, so I need to instantiate an audio source as a part of this. So let's go ahead and what's happening here? I received a lot of notifications about something. Cool, it's not important. I will continue to ignore it. Alright. So let's go ahead and set this up here. I'm going to need a serialized property for a sound fire and sound reload. Let's go ahead and make a audio clip. Get rid of min. Duplicate that. And bonk. So now here, we can just do sound to fire and the sound reload in both of these. Sound fire, swap this out, sound reload. So let's go to our armory gun base class here. We'll do serialized field, private audio clip, sound fire, and sound reload. Now, there is something that you can do in C#. I'm not visually a huge fan of it, but it's perfectly good code. But if you want, you're like, oh, I have like 6 different audio clips that I need to set up here. What you could do is, instead of having a new line for each one, you can just put in a comma. So serialized field, audio clip, sound fire, sound reload, and then you can just keep doing that. I like having the full fat distinction for each one. Okay, so slightly related. My girlfriend is doing a cosplay for a convention that I'm going to, and the character has a like a stylized prop gun that kind of goes with it. And she was asking me if I could 3D print her one. And while that's possible, I'm not taking a checked bag when I visit. I'm not going to 3D print something that looks like a gun and bring it onto an airplane. That sounds like a really bad idea. So I'm not going to do that. Alright, so let's go back to our populate values here. Do audio clip, sound fire, audio clip, sound reload. Oops. Swap that out. Fire with reload. Alright, sound fire, sound reload. Hello, welcome. Excuse me. We are building out a combat system for VR chat, and right now I'm putting in some extra tooling for our automation. They will allow a 3D printer. Okay, but if they know the fumes that come off of a 3D printer, they are not allowing that on an airplane. Nice. Yeah. So let's take a look here. What I've got here is a little pop-up window for customizing and building a gun of sorts. So if I am clicked into this thing and I want to give it brand new settings, I can click revert, get rid of all that. And I can drag it into this field here where it says rifle. I can set its damage that it fires for. I can set how far it fires, the ammo it has, and how long a reload takes. Just make it a real gun and check it. Yeah, but I'm not gonna bring it on my carry-on. I don't have a checked bag for this flight. Alright, so yeah, I can just show off how this works. Pop it in, create, bang, adds all the things to it, puts a gun grip right at the origin, and it puts a fire point slightly in front. So we need to fix that, put it over here. What data class are you using for health tracking and why? I am using a float because health is what I've set up as a entity stat, and a float is kind of universally easy to work with. So we can have it set up to be anything, and realistically, I think I could get away with having it be a byte. I think having these stats just be a byte value would be probably the smarter idea. Then you don't have to worry about 0.1 health or stuff like that. And then you cut down on the size of value of data that's being transferred around. Yeah, I think that's safe enough to swap around. I'm gonna just cast this as a byte. Who is you printing a gun-shaped object while on a plane? It might be much worse than having it in your carry-on. Maybe you could mail it. Mailing it was definitely one of the options we were looking at. But yeah, I don't think, okay, so one of the big issues functionally was that it has multicolored parts on the same print that someone has made, and I don't have a multi-filament printer, so it would be a lot of me taking out the current filament and putting in a new one, stuff like that. It's okay. I used an unsigned int because of the big numbers, so combat system can scale to really big numbers. Paper fan to an orbital strike cannons. Well, it all depends on the scale of stuff you're working with. I don't think that it will make sense for me to ever give players more than 256 health. Or 255, I guess. Though, I guess maybe if you're like fighting a really big boss or something, and this massive dude has like 1,000,000 health and you need to shoot this guy for like an hour, then I think by default, nope, yeah, I'll put this back to floats. So I do like your idea of an unsigned int, because a player's health will never be negative. It's a little annoying that I can't auto cast this. Can I set a min attribute for a vector too? Does that work? So if I set min to be 0, just cast these. Okay, this is going to be a lot of casting. Hope you all had a good Pride Month. Yeah, as well. We had some pretty good stuff going around in the city where I'm out of. It was pretty hot though, which is the biggest one. So that was a little annoying, just the sheer amount of heat. But yeah, it was pretty nice, yeah. Oh, we went to a freaking great restaurant afterwards. Oh my god. I'm not normally a sushi fan, but oof, that was good stuff. Alright, where were we? What are we doing? We're instantiating an audio source. Right, I've been distracted. It's too easy. Okay, so first actually we need to have the fields added into this. So let's go ahead, do sound fire field, sound reload field. Sound fire or sound reload. Sound fire. Duplicate it. Replace load fire with reload. Now if we pop back in here, we should see those fields up there. Yep, okay. So let's pop in there. I can go ahead and see what's this one. Alright. That in fire and noise. Yeah, that's a fine loud sound. So with that, we'll put that into a audio source that we generate. So we have a box glider here that we're doing stuff with. Let's go ahead and this is all part of the grabby system. This is the firing one. Okay, we'll put it in down here. Audio source equals new game object audio dot add component audio source. Oop. We'll just call this sound instead. All right. So sound dot transform dot parent equals selected dot gate dot transform. That's it. Now when we have this, yeah, we'll just do the set local position and rotation to be 0 and quaternion dot identity, which is essentially a 0 rotation. All right. After we do that, maybe we'll do a prefab for that instead. Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Let's do audio source sound prefab, and we just instantiate off of that. Okay. Sound prefab field. Doesn't actually exist yet, so if we tap into Unity, it's going to complain that it doesn't find this and break, but we'll fix that pretty quickly. So we want our sound to not be a new game object. We want it to be prefab utility dot instantiate prefab. We're going to base this off of is it not called data? What did I call this? Oh no. Gun builder data dot instance dot prefab. There we go. This needs to be childed to selected transform. So that lets us get rid of this, but we're also going to have to let's do just like game object. Wait, what is this returning? Oh, it's a Unity object, so I need to cast it into an audio source. Okay, that makes more sense. Alright, so now our gun needs to know an audio source as well. Sound source. Audio clip will be source. Sound source. We'll swap out fire for source. And this will take our sound there instead of the value from that. So now we go ahead, we go to our, once this compiles, we'll go to sound fire field, duplicate that, bring it up here, rename this to sound prefab field. There we go. Now everything's working again. Let's go ahead and make ourselves a prefab for this. We'll do audio source. Max distance, we'll just do 50 for now. No Doppler, set it to 3D. I'll just get rid of all of these points and slide that off, and then drag that down to 0. And reset position. Audio, nope, we'll do sound prefab. Go into our prefabs folder, pop that there, stick that into our builder window. Let's go ahead and reset this guy here. Get it all. Create. All right, he now has an audio source child to him. He has the 2 different sounds that we're choosing for firing. Now, we need to make those actually play sound. So we're going to it might be better in the future to have a weapon idea banana bomb. VR only, players will need to peel banana, eat banana, prime banana peel by yanking the stem, then throwing peel. Proximity fuse AoE. Causes ragdoll, temp move speed 0. That is a very Donkey Kong Bonanza solution. I like it. Alright, so what we did here is we're kind of hard coding the VFX of this gun into the gun itself. And in the future, it is definitely going to be better to have this to be a like weapon VFX component, so that you can inherit from it, you can change stuff there, and it'll just be a lot easier to have that be modular. Modular, there we go. The problem is, I don't know if I want to do that now, or if I should just get this working. It shouldn't take long. Nope. Yeah, it should be fine. All right, let's go ahead. Weapons. We'll do weapon VFX. I know we're largely using this for SFX, but there will be some VF as well. All right, so base armory behavior. Base armory behavior I didn't mention before, but is a generic behavior, like abstract thing that I set up that just has an initialization function, so that you can have these values already cached and just have everything have a proper initialization thing. One of the big difficulties with Udon, with Udon Sharp specifically, is that overriding default classes, default methods, is not something that Udon Sharp can do. So let's say in this class I'm doing something in start, and over here in Armory NPC I want to do something in start as well. So just private void start debug log. Whoa. So now if I head back into Unity, we're not going to get a compile error, like a C# compile error, because that's something you could normally do. But what we will get is a Udon Sharp compile error. U# does not yet support hiding base methods. Did you intend to override start? So this is the thing. This is the reason why I have this init function, because we just have the base one call everything from start and everything from there. Prefab management and workflow is something I struggle to maintain good consistency on. Yeah, that's fair. It's definitely one of those things that it gets easier the more you work on projects with other people. It's pretty easy to figure out what you want on your kind of projects, but figuring out what other people need is the biggest help in terms of learning what a system has to do in order to be really effective at that kind of thing. So yeah, I definitely understand that. All right, so we're going to actually steal our sound effects and stuff from there and put it over here. Excuse me. Now, instead of doing a audio source there that we're serializing, we're going to require a component of type audio source. No. We're going to do this because this will make it easier to replace in the future instead of hard coding that. But for now, we'll go into my init method and sound source equals get component audio source. So now let's go ahead and have some methods for this. So public void play fire fx, and then public void play reload fx. Source dot play one shot sound fire. Again, this is the kind of thing that I want to replace in the future with the proper audio pooling. But for now, we're just getting this set up to just playing one shots. All right. Instead of doing this, we're going to swap our audio source. So we have our, let's go over to our prefab, our sound prefab. We will add our weapon VFX component, and that is what we will be referencing instead of our audio source one. So let's go back to our window. We'll do, instead of audio source, we'll do weapon VFX prefab. Weapon VFX. Call this VFX. Now we need a way for populating that. Values. Do audio clip, fire, audio clip, reload. So sound fire equals fire, sound reload equals reload. So now go to vfx.populate values. Just put those in there. Yeah, I'll dock it down like that for visual organization. And here, instead of audio source, we want a weapon VFX. Change this up here. Oh, we're gonna need a reference to it up here, I see. Field private weapon VFX. Weapon VFX. Weapon VFX equals sound source, just because that's the same name right now. Bring that out and call this whale pawn VFX. Heyo, welcome, Lily. How is it going? How goes the developing? Yeah, it's going pretty good. I'm building out some VFX stuff for it right now. I guess VFX again is a bit of a misnomer since there's no visuals at the moment, but it'll have some sound effects for different actions taking place. One of the annoying things is that I don't actually have a library of audio right now to work off of, so I'm just using some audio sound effects from Undertale, because they were on my computer. That will be replaced in the future, I promise you. Sound reload, typically. We'll let that clear up. There we go. I'll go like this. And these two should... doing pretty good. Just taking a break after finishing with some energy base celebrations. Nice, nice. Does anyone happen to know what these little crowns are? I think I remember hearing about this, and it ended up being a thing you can't turn off, which I find a little obnoxious. I mean, as long as it isn't like... Okay, yeah, it's a top fans thing, so you get them based on how often you type in my chat, I guess. Do you happen to see a little crown behind your username in the chat? Because it is quite silly. Yeah. Okay. So that just shows like what you've like how often you've chatted in it. Live messages and emojis. Yeah. Alright, sound prefab. I guess we can rename that to not sound prefab. Weapon VFX prefab. Alright. So now go ahead. Alright. Reset this guy. So completely fresh. And hit create. We have our gun grip. We have our weapon VFX reference. We have this thing here. We have the audio clips put in. And now we set up the PowerPoint. All right, that's working. Let's go ahead and make this stuff actually run. All right. So populate values, we can hide this now. We're essentially never going to use that in game. This is something we probably could skip from the compiler, but it's fine. All right, so a lot of this is just going to be local for now, but let's go ahead and do, let's see, fire bullet. Yeah, complete reload. Yep. All right. So we'll do VFX dot play fire, and put that right below that both times. I can probably put in run damage, but I think that's, yeah, I'm gonna have to split this up in the future so that people can receive these as part of the firing event. Because right now, nobody knows. Like, the only person that is seeing this is the one that's firing the gun. So effectively, no one else hears this. You have a silent weapon. Play reload FX. Alright, and with that, we can actually get rid of the debug logging. I should probably do an if check, so if weapon VFX. That way, if someone's implementation doesn't utilize the FX system, it's perfectly fine. Alright, so if I reset this pistol, pop it in, damage 20, max ammo 10, real duration 1, bang. Alright, let's put the fire point at a proper start point for it. And we'll do the same here for the marksman. Oh, the little Koopa dance with the ba ba. Alright, that's set up. Let's put the fire point at the tip here. Alright, so now if I hit play, can I upgrade scene behavior? Yeah, it's probably fine. Whoops. Alright, I may have accidentally set all of the guns to be automatic. I do not actually want an automatic pistol. Let's go revert that, pop it back in. I don't want to automatic this one either, so I'll do this one first since the settings are still here. Then for pistol, pop it in, set damage to be 20, max ammo 10, and create. Fire point here. Ba ba ba. This is. Alright, pistol. Okay. Alright. That all seems to be working. Easy. Yeah, so that's what I was thinking was the case. So I have my voice and I have the music balanced to roughly -10 to -15 decibels. Unity is currently set to 20% on the Windows volume mixer. So I will similarly lower that as well. Now, the sound effects themselves are a little loud, so I'll fix that as well. But Unity is just such a really, really loud application for some reason. The sound. Oh, was it too loud? I knew it was loud, but oof, whoops. All right, is that any better? This is. No, let's see what here. Because it sounds like the automatic one is firing twice when I first fire it. So let's see here. Let's go to Armory Gun Auto. Alright, so when you click to start firing, it sets is firing to be true. During update, okay. So I should also be setting the last fire time up here because unused down fires the weapon. Okay. That is why we were hearing it fired twice when the automatic one started. Can you DM me the sound? I mean, it's just an audio clip from Undertale. It is definitely not going to be what's in there for the rest of the time. Yeah, it is some kind of Undertale bullet. Presumably it's from like the Azrael fight or something. What is block 2? Oh, right. I think I was going to have a separate sound effect play at the same time if you successfully hit something with your shot. So I probably won't do that now, seeing as we already have a bunch to get through for all this. Man, I mentioned the friggin' player roles, and I am nowhere near starting to implement that because I've worked on the VFX stuff for this all day. That's fine though. Alright, I'm going to take a quick pause and go use the restroom, but enjoy the music, keep chatting. I will be back in perhaps only a minute. Ooh. I am back. I have successfully survived. Getting lost in the forest. Oh, right. Mario RPG. Yeah. Yeah, thanks. All right. So the idea for the player roles mechanic is there's going to be essentially an object that sits in the scene with a response of this is what happens when this player is spawned, this is what happens when this player dies, or things like that. So it's essentially going to be a bit of a data container for some stuff. It's the kind of thing that normally I would use a scriptable object for, especially in standalone, but scriptable objects, as I can implement them for Udon, work great for individual variables. They do not work great for functions and methods. So we'll essentially have to have them in the scene already and have them get assigned. So let's go ahead and go to our scripts, entities, new folder, roles, and we'll have an abstract one for base entity role. Base marker. Let's be abstract. We can't instantiate this one specifically, because all of these roles are probably going to have very unique behavior to the point that a generic one probably won't make sense. It might be good to have one that's just called standard that inherits from this, and that's just your generic player. But we're going to have a bunch of functions for doing things, and this is largely just going to be a wrapper. In fact, this might even just be nice to have as an interface, but again, we don't have interfaces in Udon. So let's go ahead and have a public void on spawn public void. These need to be virtual. On death? Yeah, on death. So these will be our two things now. And we can start with standard, just as the standard player object. Or the standard player role. So the expectancy for that is they will spawn at a position, they will full heal, and they won't have any like objects turned off or stuff. And then when they die, they will respawn back to a single point. So standard roll. Go ahead and inherit from base entity roll. Have a serialized field, private transforms, spawns, and serialized field, private transform, death spawn. So where do you go when you die? On spawn, we get a random transform from that. So transform target equals spawns unity engine random dot range 0 spawns dot length. If target isn't real, return. We only want to be doing this if the owner is local. Yeah, so if owner dot is local, return and toss an exclamation point in there. Then we can do local player dot teleport to. Does this take a? Can this take a transform? No, it does not. All right, we'll do target dot position, target dot rotation. Then on death, we'll basically do exactly the same, only instead of randomizing, we'll just do our death target or death spawn. Now we need our entity to actually be able to do things with this. So let's go to Armory player inherits from Armory entity. So we'll have a serialized field, protected, base, entity role, entity role. We want to get her for this so that we can handle teams with this in the future. We'll do a public base entity role, entity role, and just returns that. Now we have this. We need to handle spawning a player and stuff. So public void spawn player, public void kill player. So this will just set their health stats. Do I have a setter for that? I do not. All right, set value. Okay. Set value 0. Or maybe we'll have set min and set max. Or set to min and set to max. x value min max dot y. Okay. Set to min and set to max. If they have a role on spawn. Wait, what's this? Oh, on spawn is a function that is built into Udon. Is on spawn when like the player spawns? Because I don't think it's this game object. Because on player respawn is a different thing. I wonder what on spawn is. Oh well. On spawn, but mine. On death. How should this handle this? So we need the player to have something happen when their health hits a value. Because right now this can tell it to die. But right now, if someone kills a player by shooting them, that is their health being set to 0. Their health, since it's a separate stat, can have listeners for stuff like that. And I think okay. We add the armor modifiers, etc. Maybe eventually. Definitely something to add to the list of things people are interested in. Yeah, feel free to let me know if you have any ideas for the system. It's one of the main reasons I'm streaming its production. Okay, so this is going to... Let me change up how the listener on stat change is handled. This won't take a float, this will take the stat itself. Because I want something to be able to subscribe to multiple stats. Okay, yeah, if I'm gonna do that, then we don't care about this anymore. So we can just do bind stat if stat, and this is automatically skipped if it's already in the list. Okay, we'll do that with this callback. That way we can go back to our armory entity, change it from base armory behavior to listener, stat listener. So this will listen to the player's health. So stat it might be a good idea for me to just have that as part of the stat. Public float percentage. Oops. Just do stat dot percentage. we go back to our player entity, or stat listener. I have to make wrappers for on enable and disable now. This is fine. Disable. Just call that Alright, so now that we have that, swap this out for on enable, on disable. All right, now we can go back to army player here. On enable. I'm making my own combat system, but I'll choose it from there. Much of this held together with ductworks. That's the shit. Well, this is certainly my first time in a long time building it together, so there's definitely gonna be duct tape here. I'm already running into a little bit of issues with how my inheritance stuff is being handled, because right now I want the armory entity to be notified when stuff happens, when the player's health changes. And when the player's health changes, it should either spawn the player like, oh, when it's set to max, it'll do that. Wait, no, we don't want to do that. We want to have that do this. Okay. Yeah. So this will do like on changed, on stat changed. There we go. Then in here we want to check to see if stat equals health return, because we don't care if it's not health, and if health stat dot val percentage 0. No, we'll do values less than or equal to 0. Kill player. These probably don't need to be network callable. I'm gonna have them not for now. Okay, set changed. Player, yep. The player. Set to min. Ooh, that was just loop. Okay, then on death is handled by that. Alright, come back here. So the annoying thing now is that entity stat listener always shows this stat here. It might actually make more sense to get rid of that and have each one handle its stat listening independently. Yeah, because if we look at entity stat bar over here, This handles the on state changed, but it is a stat listener here. So this should be, let's have this custom here. We get rid of this. Let's have the on enable over here, because that's the only one we actually need that for. Then our armory player, instead of doing this during on enable, we can do it during init. Init. There we go. Health stat dot add listener this, because this will never be a disabled game object. It's just enabled and does the stuff. All right, so spawn player set to max. All right, so let's add a object player role standard. Standard role. All right. We'll just set it to be its own death spawn, and we'll create a bunch of spawns over here. Alright, pop that into spawns. We don't have a way to start a game yet, so that'll be for another time. I only have 9 minutes left for today's stream. But, so player role standard. If we go to these guys, so if I just select all of these NPCs, but oh, we don't need a lock on that anymore. Entity role, we can drag in role standard. Only 9. Oof. Well, yeah. Well, I do a 2-hour stream. That keeps me pretty productive and keeps me from cutting into other things that I'm doing, while also having enough time to get tasks done. I'll be doing this again on Thursday, and we'll be adding even more stuff there. Water is some good stuff. Highly recommend it to those who have not tried it. It's water. Very good. Alright. Standard. It's called the standard rule. Alright, so if I go into this, these NPCs should we'll break. This local check. When is this being called? Oh, on death is being called because okay, I see what happens now. On death is being called from over here for kill player, because kill player is being called because the stat changed is less than 0, because when we subscribe it hasn't set its value yet because we're doing it during init. So add listener should have an initialization check init. So if initialized init. And that's one of the reasons I have the initialization function, because it fixes a lot of scenarios like that. Alright, so if I hit play, maybe nothing will crash. Let's find out. Alright, nothing crashed. Good. Now, come over here. Alright, well, it respawned to me, but not this thing. And I think I know why. In fact, I know exactly why. So what we're doing on the respawn is, let's go ahead and armory entity. There we go. So on death, what we're doing is, for the standard role, we are teleporting the local player if they are the owner of this object. And that isn't how we want this to work. What we need to do first is we need to figure out whether or not the entity that is there is a NPC entity or a player entity. So I'm actually going to prefab this. Yeah. The plan is to have this up on my Patreon after a bunch of development for this stuff, and I'm hoping to have this up as a testable thing after Thursday's stream, but we'll see what happens. Yeah. All right. Well, first of all, I want to be able to pass in an entity for this, so that we can actually reference it during these functions. It's going to break a few things here. Fortunately, they are very easy fixes. Do we need to stress test it? Eventually, yes. Not today, though. But I will gladly take the stress testing in the future. Okay, so armory entity needs a way to respawn. Public void respawn entity. This will be a virtual void. So if we go into armory player, we'll do respawn if owner is local. Wait, no, I don't want respawn. I want teleport and to, oh my god, ugh, all right, transform target. All right, teleport entity. Let's take a transform target. Just copy it from here. So if owner dot is local, spacing that. All right, now armory player is set up. We want armory NPC now. So this will actually be the first real customization we do for this. Instead of teleport entity, we will do we will just set the position. So set position rotation. All right, now we go back to our standard role. We don't want to do that. We want to do entity.teleport entity, and will be death spawn. And up here, we'll do it to target. Suppose. Or my own side script and running issue at some times. Luckily, my object not to assign owner correctly or de-owning or lag behind. Yeah, so one of the big things for this system is almost all of these are going to be player objects. So not like the guns or the NPCs, but the handling for player health is through player objects, and damaging will be with network event parameters. So there will be a lot going into this. So let's see if we look at that. All right, let's give it a try. See how she goes. All right, so that successfully respawned. I don't have a great way to test damaging myself at the moment. Let's everyone just look away for a quick moment. Okay, so yeah, I get respawned for that. Perfect. Nice. I like it. And that's all happening because I have a role object here with expected behavior based on certain scenarios, such as being spawned and being deathed. All right. I think that's it. Yeah. So we're at 6 o'clock here. So that is the end of our 2-hour working on this time period. I think we got a lot done. We got the whole VFX system branched in. We got all of that coming in from our gun builder here, where we can just drag an object in, have all these settings picked out, and just hit the create button. This worked today? Yeah, thanks. I am gonna get myself some food now that it's supper time. It was great hanging out with everyone. I really like the idea of having modifiers onto certain stuff, like Shiro mentioned for health stuff, such as like defense boost or things like that. But that will probably be as part of another system later down the line. Probably for the same system, but something that gets added independently in the future. But for now, yeah. There we go. Yeah, it was great having everyone. I look forward to seeing you all on Thursday. Well, see you next time.